That's good.
Everybody, we're going to give a minute or so for people to kind of trickle in. So I do see people coming in right now. So hang tight for just a minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and get started at least with introductions, and that way if anyone pops in the next minute or so, they're not going to miss too much. So if anyone has inquired about acupuncture whatsoever here at NISA, I would hope that my name looks familiar. I know that some of the names I'm looking at look very familiar, so that's great. I'm so glad that everybody is here. I am your main point of contact here, so kind of brings you through your complete admissions journey. I'm also here with the dean of the program, Dean Mosman. We also have a current student here, Emma. So I will let you two give yourselves a brief intro while I get the presentation going. Dean Mosman, would you like to start?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hope we can provide you with some good information about acupuncture education, specifically at MCPHS New England School of Acupuncture. My name is Dr. Dennis Mosman, and as Amy said, I am the Dean of New England School of Acupuncture. I have been involved in acupuncture education since 1994. Scary, that is now over 30 years. I don't know where the time has gone. It's an amazing field to be in. It's certainly an amazing field as a practitioner. I enjoyed my many years in practice immensely. It's no better feeling than helping others as part of your calling or as part of your profession. So I certainly applaud all of you for thinking about pursuing a career in acupuncture. I'm also a chiropractor. Before I was an acupuncturist, I was a chiropractor as well. So I have been in integrative medicine for quite a long time. I've been very active in the national professional landscape in acupuncture. I am currently serving on a committee to help redefine our professional competencies with our programmatic accreditor. They're called ACOM, the Accreditation Commission for Acupuncture and Herbal Medicine. I'm a board member for the Committee on Acupuncture here in Massachusetts, which is the licensing body for acupuncturists here in Massachusetts. And I also sit on the board of two professional associations, the High Desert Hari Society, which is a Japanese acupuncture society based in New Mexico, and the Acupuncture Society for Massachusetts, which is one of the state professional associations here in Massachusetts. So I stay very busy being active in a leadership role in the profession. So hopefully we'll be able to answer lots of your questions and get you as excited about this field as I know that we already are. Emma?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I'm a first-year student here at NISA. I'm just heading to the end here of my second semester. It's coming in quick. May is very rapidly approaching. And yeah, I was not in any sort of related field prior to joining NISA. I'd always been interested in some kind of medical field, but the Western medical system wasn't something I wanted to really get into in that way. And I think acupuncture is really great because it can mix both, integrative medicine with, a Western approach. And, I think the more opportunities we're seeing in NISA to, be a part of a hospital program or a program helping veterans, there's just so many opportunities. So I'm excited you're all here. I'm excited to be here. I was in where you were about this time last year. So the tables have turned and here I am. So welcome.
Emma was here for spring open house. And so she absolutely, we just had spring open house. So it's exactly a year, which is great. Now that we have a couple more people here joining us, I'm just going to let everyone know that this is being recorded. So don't feel as if you need to take frantic notes or, you want to miss anything. We publish this through our website, so you could always go back and look at it. And if you wanted the presentation itself or any kind of like copy of the slides, happy to provide that as well. The Q&A box is live, so we will answer questions throughout the presentation. So feel free to go ahead and pop them in. You may wait a couple slides because I may hold on a question if I know it's coming up soon and we can have more of a discussion about it. One of us here on the panel may answer it through typing it back, or we may click that we'll have an open discussion and I'll bring the question up live. But everything I promise will be answered, and there's plenty of time at the end to ask questions as well. All right. So MCPHS in general and kind of the healthcare field. So MCPHS has been around a long time. We celebrated our bicentennial now in 2023, here we are in 2025. So yes, first and foremost, we started out as a pharmacy school, but it really has grown into a whole healthcare, health science university. When you look at any of our academic catalogs, whether that is undergraduate degrees, graduate degrees, doctoral degrees, everything is related either to health science or healthcare. You will not find any kind of liberal arts programs. You won't find an engineering department here, even though that's kind of related to science, but really a focus on these hands-on clinical sciences. And we have students from all around the world, not only representative of MCPHS in general, we have students from all around the world in our acupuncture programs as well. Just a brief clinical affiliation mention. Here we have MCPHS has affiliations with Mass Brigham as well as Boston's Children's Hospital. We're going to talk a little bit about access to clinical sites specific for our NISA students a little bit later in the presentation, but you're going to be seeing these names again when we take a little bit of a deeper dive in there. So healthcare in general we're on the rise. We are in a shortage of just about everything out there. So if you are interested in healthcare, whether that be Eastern or Western medicine, I will say it's a great time to be getting into that career because everything is at a shortage and very much in need of practitioners. So if you are coming to NISA, Worcester would be your new home, unless you are already from the area. Worcester's the largest city here in New England. I have had the pleasure of, yes, MCPHS came in the year of 2000. That happened to be around that time that I was going to college in the area. So I remember what downtown Worcester looked like when they bought up some real estate and what they really transferred it into. And our campus has beautiful architecture, some really amazing facilities in a really health science kind of bubbling area. So many hospitals nearby, a lot of, I would say a lot of bioscience going on as well, kind of in the area. I can talk a little bit about this, but I know I've seen more acupuncture sites up in the area, especially since NISA has joined MCPHS in the past few years. So lots to do around healthcare and health science. But we also have about 10 universities, or 10 or 11, I think 10 now that Becker closed, different universities in the city. So there's also really great food and breweries and museums and theater and tons of stuff to do. I will say that as someone who lives in Worcester, so as a resident, that is kind of my take on it. Emma, as a student perspective, tell us a little bit about what's your love for Worcester, maybe your likeness for Worcester.
Yeah, no, I think Worcester is really like the best kept secret in Massachusetts. I think I've I mean, you can't like throw a rock without hitting a good restaurant, especially around campus. And, tomorrow as a group, we're all going to a Woo Sox game. So that's really fun. There's just a lot to do in Worcester. So, you really can't go wrong anywhere you go.
Yeah, I mean, the food, I still haven't like been to every restaurant in Worcester. It would take me a million years. But definitely if you're a foodie, it's a good place to be. One really convenient thing about our campus is that we have on-campus housing, and this is all graduate housing. So this is all adult graduate housing, which a lot of schools may or may not be able to offer. And we have it in many different styles. So everything from the top right-hand photo is a glance at our condos. So those are 2 bedrooms, 2 bath. They also have a washer and dryer unit in them. So kind of, that nice vaulted ceilings and hardwood floors. We also have 2-bedroom apartments. We have studio apartments. That's the picture that's kind of the second one down. If you've ever stayed at kind of like a Residence Inn or Home Away, that's about the size of them. Like you want a picture about the size of a decent sized hotel room with a kitchen in there. We also have 2 to 3 bedroom suites. Those are going to be a little bit more your typical dorm style, and the fact that they're in an academic building and they have those different bedrooms within the apartment, but everyone has their own bedroom. So different from undergrad, where it may look like an undergrad suite, everyone has their own private space, and they would share common areas such as bathroom and kitchen and small living area. Also, we have hotel room style, so that would be another single style housing. One of our buildings on campus actually used to be a Sheraton hotel. So we kept hotel rooms on different floors of that building and put in a community kitchen. So lots of different, I always say like lots of different options for different budgets, different likes on amenities, what you can live without, what you can't live without. So affordable, uncomplicated in the terms of you sign a 1-year lease with the school, and you can actually use, if you're using like your FAFSA loans or anything like that, you can actually use that because it would be paying your rent. So sometimes students find that easier in terms of financing while they're in school. Emma is a commuter student, so kind of from that point of view, I would say we do have quite a bit of commuter students in the program. Do you want to talk a little bit about you getting back and forth to campus and commuting?
Yeah. The nice thing is, initially it is a pretty standardly hybrid program. So there's a couple days on campus and a couple days that you are online. So in that way it's easier, but it's something to consider for each individual person. I was the type of person that I commuted 45 minutes to, my freshman year to college in undergrad. So, it was what worked for me. This is what works for me now. So, I think it depends person to person, but it's very possible we have people that commute from much farther away than where I am at. So, it can be done. It has been done. Oh, and here's Sam. Hi, Sam. So yeah, it's definitely possible. And I think, depending on where you live, Worcester has a lot of housing, and, MCPHS has a lot of great housing. So if that doesn't work for you, there are a lot of options.
Which is actually great timing, Sam, because I was going to ask you a question at this very moment. Sam, I know that you can walk to campus, but you're not in on-campus housing. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe how you found housing so close to campus to be able to walk back and forth?
Yeah.
Oh, and you can introduce yourself, by the way. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Hi. Sorry I'm late. Just got out of our Japanese studies class. So just coming straight from that. But my name is Sam. I'm a first-year student along with Emma. And I do live in Worcester. I'm a very close walk to campus. I originally was living in Boston, so I was actually able to come out and tour Worcester a few times before moving here. And so I just kind of did look around the area close to campus. I originally did not have a car when I moved out here, so that was a huge factor in why I needed to be walking distance to campus. And there are some really great options very close to campus around Worcester. There are some buildings that are more, I guess you consider them like fully luxury buildings, I guess, like they have all the amenities included. There are also buildings that are just sort of more your apartment with a landlord. So there are some really good options around campus. And so my journey to finding my housing was kind of just touring around, looking around on Zillow, looking around on different websites to find a place that I could afford. And that was walking distance, which was a huge factor for me.
I do want to say also, I think the majority of NISA students are commuter students. I mean, we have students commuting from everywhere. I mean, from Maine, Rhode Island. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around how some people commute, but
Isn't there a student from Vermont?
yeah, I mean,
there's
all
a-
over New England and a little bit outside of New England. So people do make it work. And I think that the hybrid curriculum does allow a little bit more of that because we try to stack our in-person days together as much as possible so that, you know, I know in first year, it's primarily Wednesdays and Thursdays that they're on campus. And then you're remote, usually Mondays and Tuesdays. So, you know, we do try and, you know, create a schedule that gives you as much flexibility as possible in a very rigorous master's degree program.
Okay, so not only are we an acupuncture school, like I said, NISA is nestled into MCPHS, which is a whole span of different healthcare, health science degree programs. So one great thing is, yes, we have all these programs, but people often ask me, that's great, but what does that do for me? What it does for you is we have something called interprofessional education. So this isn't something, that MCPHS or NISA, invented. There are other schools that have programs similar to this, which is great. But those other schools aren't unique in the fact of all of these programs are actually professions that work together. So when you come on campus and you have your white coat on, so doesn't every single other student from all of these programs. It is your mandatory, uniform as a student here on campus. And so all of our students, I like to think we're all working towards the same goal, right? Like treating our patients, being successful practitioners to our patients, and being able to talk to your patients about another treatment that they're getting that could be completely outside of their acupuncture treatment only makes them feel better about, the practitioners that they've chosen. So what better way to do that is to kind of let everyone play together in the sandbox while you're here in school. And then that way you're really ready to take on anything when you're coming out of the program. Dean Mosman, I'm going to have you chat a little bit about IPE and the benefits of it. And Sam and Emma, if you two want to jump in and talk about your experiences in IPE so far.
Sure. So to me, again, I've been in this for a long time. When I graduated as an acupuncturist, there was no IP anything. There wasn't interprofessional. We were alternative medicine, back in the day, and we've progressed from alternative to complementary. And now I truly believe that we are part of an integrative system. And, the landscape in healthcare has also evolved, and patients are the center of care, right? You've probably heard that term a lot, patient-centered care. But this idea that you put the patient, in the center, at the forefront of what it is that you do. And we know patients are seeking care from many different types of practitioners. And so communication, cooperation, and collaboration between those practitioners is what allows us to deliver like the highest quality patient-centered care. If we understand what other healthcare professions are doing and how they're treating their patients, that will inform how we treat our patients. And if that holds true for us, then it holds true for others. If others understand what we do as acupuncturists as part of that patient's care plan, then they can be informed and they can change their clinical decision-making based on a shared knowledge. And I really think that is the future of healthcare. And we at NISA, I really feel strongly that we've positioned ourselves in such a good place because, you know, if you go back to that list of different professions, these are all the folks that your patients are going to be sharing care with. And we want to be able to talk to those folks in a meaningful way to really, you know, fulfill that idea of patient-centered care. So when, you know, something as simple as you living in a dorm, you take an elevator up, and in that elevator, you have students from 5 different disciplines. You have an opportunity to talk to them, to listen to them. If you're in a shared space, an eating area, we do shared events together. You know, we do an interprofessional trivia night, right? I mean, we do all of these different things on campus and in classes to promote this idea of collaboration between professions, because we know how important it is for patient care in the 21st century. And maybe Emma and Sam, maybe you could talk about any interprofessional education experience you've had since you've been here.
Yeah, sure. I can speak to that. We had just recently an interprofessional event that was a book club. So over winter break, we were asked to read a book about a doctor that worked at Bellevue Hospital in New York, I think on Long Island. And so basically the entire school was asked to read it, who all the students that were attending this event. And then we talked about how the practitioners experiences with patients of different cultures impacted us, what we thought we might be able to contribute to those sort of patient interactions. And it's very eye-opening. It helps you get outside of the bubble of school, because I think when you're learning, you kind of just, as we talk about in a lot of our classes, you learn in a vacuum. But no one is just experiencing one symptom or just going to one practitioner. So these sort of events, even just having the greater MCPHS community, sort of helps you zoom out and see your patient at a wider scope as a person who's interacting in the world with a lot of different people with a lot of different things going on. And so it can kind of help you also understand your scope as an acupuncturist, of maybe we can't treat every single ailment that they're having, but we are a very key step in their health and their wellness, along with the PT that they're going to, along with the dental hygienist that they're going to. So it just sort of helps to reinforce that teamwork aspect of total healthcare and like total wellness for the patient.
And I will just add that this isn't something that's graded. It's not that's something that you have to take a class for. It's not credit bearing. We require students to just participate. So, you know, whether it's a short case study, a book that you're reading over a semester, we ask you to just to bring your expertise to the table. So it's not something we have to cram for, study for. I forgot to say that in the beginning. I know people were probably thinking, oh God, how much work is this? But it's really a great opportunity for our students. And I know that a lot of networking has happened from it. I've seen a lot of what we like to call, you know, the deer in the headlights, or like, oh my God, something is coming together. You know, when you're learning from each other, oh, that's how that all works. And you see it kind of start to come together. So it's a really great experience for our students.
Yeah, the events help prepare you for real life. I mean, that's what
Right.
happens in real life, caring for patients. So those are really important kind of dialogues to have.
This slide I'm actually gonna talk just a second on. Emma and Sam, I'm gonna let you guys take the reins on this. If you guys want to talk about your relationships with faculties, I was looking at facilities, your relationship with your faculty, and different aspects of the student success side, and resources that we have to offer our students.
Sure, I could take this one. So the really cool thing about most of the programs at MCPHS is it's not long before your faculty are your peers. And they treat you that way from the start. So especially, you know, the acupuncture program here just has some of the most amazing faculty members. And every time I meet a new faculty member, I say to myself, I'd like to go get treated by them, because they just all have such an interesting approach and they're so different. It's like just a wonderful group of like snowflakes that are just, they would solve the problem in a different way and it would still work. So that's a really big part of, and you know, as they sort of get more comfortable with you, they start sharing, you know, different experiences they've had with patients and how they've, you know, moved through that. And so pretty much any question you could come up with for any scenario you see yourself in down the line, the faculty member has probably seen it and has a good answer for you there. And as well as, like, you know, we have access to peer tutoring, which is fantastic because it's really the students who just finished the class the prior year get to, you know, if they finished in good standings, they can tutor the following class. So, you know, they have a really good understanding of what the, you know, professor is looking for in an exam, you know, how the student should be understanding the information and, you know, how that's relevant going forward. I think a big part of this, you know, program is you ask yourself, initially it's a lot of pieces and then the puzzle starts to fit together down the line and it really makes a lot more sense. But initially the pieces all seem very confusing. So having a student who has been through it and has put the puzzle together say, it's going to be okay, you know, you don't need to know that yet, you just need to understand these pieces and it will start to come together. And that's been really helpful. I know initially I utilized peer tutoring a lot for just, you know, getting someone to talk me down when I was struggling to understand how things fit together. But yeah, we have the best faculty. I really can't say enough good things about it.
That's not just because Dean Mosman's on the call. I promise you. She
He
says this when
certainly
he's
loves
not
to
around
hear,
too.
he certainly loves to hear that, but
And also too, we have the Office of Student Access and Accommodation. So if any student needs any kind of accommodation or an accommodation may be renewed from a past institution, all of those services come free of charge to all of our students. So no matter what you need, MCPHS can cover that. All you would need to do, really reach out to me if anyone would have any questions about that. And I can always put you in touch kind of with the right people there. And one good thing is, you know, we talk about you're having these peer tutors and having all of these different resources available. They're here just on our campus. So it's also another benefit of being on an all graduate campus. All of our undergrad programs, they're in Boston. We do have a handful of grad programs over there, and they have their own case office. They have their own Center for Student Success over there. Worcester has their own office of counseling services and career services and student success. So does our Manchester campus. So also I try to tell students, you're not fighting over each other for these resources, where maybe if you were in a large university, you know, with undergrad programs, that you got to take a number, you got to book an appointment, you got to wait in line. Students don't have to wait in line here. If you need something, that service is available for you. So just know that it's not sharing by any means. Every individual campus is set up for this.
yeah, I'd just like to weigh in on this
Yeah.
idea of student success here, because it's something that the university is just really committed to.
Yeah.
You know, if one of my kids were looking at a school, you know, if I was shopping for a school, I'm kind of like, what makes you so special, right? Why would I come to your school? And this is one of the reasons that I would point out, one of the reasons why we're special. We have departments of people dedicated to helping our students. I have taught at several other acupuncture schools that are smaller, and they don't have departments. They have one person or two people doing the job of 12 people. It's just the way that the system is set up. One of the differentiators, interprofessional education is a differentiator for us. but student success and student services, tutoring, career placement, the Office of Accommodations, Res Life. There's so many things that are here to help support our students, physically, mentally, spiritually. I think it's just really important to highlight that.
Absolutely. And also to even, I would say, not even just other acupuncture schools, you don't get this kind of attention sometimes at even other different medical type areas, depending on the size of the school that you're in. So we are very lucky to have those services. So that we have been talking about MCPHS, we've been talking about NISA. This is kind of how it all came to be. So in 2016, the New England School of Acupuncture packed up some of their bags and their boxes and came to join MCPHS here in Worcester to a brand new 5-story building, which is the best building on campus. It's the nicest building on campus. I have to be very careful where I say that and how many students hear me. But since then, it's been a great relationship. So I like to consider this our bragging slide. And I think we're allowed to because we worked really hard for a lot of these statistics. We are the first acupuncture program in the United States. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. MCPHS just celebrated 200 years. It's the second oldest pharmacy school in the country. It's the oldest school in Boston. So taking kind of these two big pillars and putting them together has only made kind of a recipe for success. So being ranked #1 on different ways of these reports is something that we like to stand out for. I noticed that if you, even on my own, you try to do a little bit of research on the East Coast, you're going to see our school come up over and over again. So we're definitely a big player here in the market, and being able to be housed under a university is really given us a lot of freedom to listen to our students, to be able to make improvements and changes without worrying if we're going to be able to keep the doors open at the same time. So we really do have that luxury of offering the best of the best to our students. Dean Mosman, do you want to touch a little bit any more about that and kind of the relationship?
Yeah, again, the first acupuncture school, I mean, there's something to be said about that for sure, but it's not only the first, but like continually improving, always looking inward to try and make things better, to try and improve our programs and the support to students. It's a pillar of the way that I think that we think within the School of Acupuncture. Like Amy said, NISA's been around a long time. We've been at different locations around the Boston area. We had an opportunity to merge with MCPHS in the mid teens of 2000s, and in 2016 we merged. And as part of the merger, they renovated an entire, like Amy said, 5-story building for us. It's gorgeous. Our clinic is gorgeous. I regularly do accreditation site visits to other acupuncture schools around the United States. And I am always happy to come back home to see what a beautiful facility that we truly have. Maybe I'm being a little vain, but it's nice to come home to a really beautiful space. The classrooms are nice. The clinic is gorgeous. It feels good coming into this building. I worked in Manhattan for many years, and some of the buildings in Manhattan are a little scary, honestly. So it's a very different experience here, and we continue to grow. I'll probably mention this again later, but in the fall of this year, we will be adding a treatment center on our Boston campus. So our acupuncture students and our college community will be able to receive acupuncture services not only at our community clinic here in Worcester, but also on our Boston campus. We're very excited about that. Just going to show the level of commitment that the university has to the success of New England School of Acupuncture.
Kind of along the same lines, do you want to talk a little bit about our purpose and mission statement? What kind of gives us the vision? I know we've talked a lot about it. Anything you want to add with these?
I guess the mission of our school, the purpose of our school is kind of the whole reason I got into this profession. I wanted to do something to give back. I knew I wanted a meaningful profession. I won't even call it a job because I don't feel like it's a job when I come to work. I wanted to change the world in some way. And I was always a health science kind of student. And I ultimately landed, not ultimately, but one of the things I landed on was acupuncture. And so, this idea to inspire and train the next generation is something that it's important to me. The acupuncture profession, although it's thousands of years old worldwide, it's relatively new here in the United States. And I want to be sure that there are shepherds, to continue the growth of this amazing profession. And so I think when we talk about mission and purpose and vision, it's how do we carry on this amazing tradition? How do we inspire others to carry on this tradition and train folks to take care of patients in a meaningful way?
So we've talked a lot about our schools and our reputation and a lot of our statistics. Dimosman, would you like to talk to us about what we're actually studying here on campus?
Sure. So again, being out in the kind of politics of this profession in the United States, this profession goes by a lot of different names. Traditional Chinese medicine is one of them. East Asian medicine is another one that's being used a lot now. Acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. But it is a traditional medicine, and there are many forms of traditional medicine around the world, for all cultures, right? Here, even there's Native American traditional medicine cultures. And so it is a traditional medicine. It has its historic roots in China, but like any good thing with good marketing, word spreads and the medicine spreads, right? And it just spreads geographically from China to Korea, to Japan, to Vietnam, to what was Asia Minor and Europe, and then North America. So it's kind of spread everywhere, and different cultures adopt different parts of the applications of this amazing system of medicine based on who the people are of that culture. And so this idea of, well, what is our program in the United States? When I talk about acupuncture, I think about the word acupuncture with a capital A. 90% of the licenses that are issued for our profession are licensed acupuncturists. And to me, a licensed acupuncturist, capital A, is someone that not only performs the therapeutic skill of acupuncture, right? Taking those pre-sterilized stainless steel needles, inserting them into points on the body and creating a therapeutic effect. But they're doing all of the other things that come along with learning this medicine. So whether you call it traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture with the capital A, we're talking about the bullet points in this slide. So our program is steeped in the classical and traditional teachings of these different therapeutic approaches. And the nice thing about it is we can integrate those classical traditional approaches with modern biomedical understanding of disease and really create an integrative kind of way of thinking about our patients so that we are informed from a traditional perspective and we are informed from a modern perspective, and we can give the patient a treatment that kind of crosses over and brings the best of both worlds. So there's acupuncture, which is the needle treatment that I referred to. Then there are a bunch of other adjunctive therapies that go along with acupuncture. You may have had some of these. This is like cupping or moxa. There's a scraping technique called gua sha. There are more modern techniques that are applied to acupuncture, like electroacupuncture, scalp acupuncture, ear acupuncture, laser acupuncture, all different adjunctive techniques that have been developed since this concept of acupuncture and needling. In addition to that, if you elect to take the acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine program, you will study the traditional Chinese materia medica. You will learn how to formulate different herbs in a variety of different formulations, whether they're raw herbs or granuled herbs or patented herbs that come in like pills that you would see in like a health food store. You'll learn all about those different kinds of herbs, topical herbs. You'll study nutrition from an integrative approach, which means you'll study both Western nutrition and Eastern nutrition, and you'll learn how to kind of put those two forms of nutrition together and make some nutritional recommendations to your patients to improve their health and well-being. We teach a form of East Asian bodywork called Tuina. So that will be entrenched in the first year of your program. You'll get to practice those skills in your clinical rotations. And we feel very strongly about self-care techniques. We focus mostly on Qigong with a little Tai Chi. And those are things that, yes, they're for your self-care as a practitioner, because in order to help people, we have to take care of ourselves, to put ourselves in the best position to help people. But then we take those self-care practices, excuse me, and we teach them to our patients so they can use them to take care of themselves and their family members as well. So those are kind of the pillars of what a traditional program in acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine would teach. Add to that now your study of the biomedical clinical sciences, and it really turns out a really well-rounded, integrative kind of acupuncture practitioner.
So with that, we have some different programs that you can enter in. So we start with our master's-based programs. Anyone that is interested in being a licensed practitioner in acupuncture first has to complete a master's program. With successful completion of a master's program, you are now eligible to sit for your licensing exam. Now, some students will just do a master's of acupuncture. That's all they want to do. That is great. It's what I consider sometimes the base model. Some students are, well, I'm interested in acupuncture, but also herbs are really cool. So you can do a master's of acupuncture in 3 years. We can do a master of acupuncture in Chinese herbal medicine in 4 years. We also have different tracks of you can go from a master to doctorate as well. We do have some different credit requirements for each one of the level of the master's or the doctorate, which I am going to go over when we talk a little bit more about admissions process. You can do everything, so acupuncture, herbal medicine, and go through the doctorate track. If you are already a licensed and practicing acupuncturist and looking for your doctorate, we also have our Doctor of Acupuncture completion program. We do have one concentration so far. So Sam was chatting a little bit when she came in. She was actually just coming from one of these classes. We have our Japanese acupuncture concentration. With this, I'm actually going to have Emma and Sam. You guys would like to talk about kind of the tracks that you are in and how you chose them and maybe how they're going?
Let Sam start with jazz.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just came from that. So JASS is Japanese Acupuncture Studies. It's just the abbreviation that we use. And it is an additional track of classes that you would add on to your program in addition to the traditional Chinese classes that we're taking. So you kind of use the foundation from the Chinese theory classes, and then it's just a different way of looking at the system through how the Japanese style developed. So we do a lot more moxa right now in that class. That's what we're focusing on. The needling is a little bit more shallow and the needles are a little bit thinner. So you kind of learn different techniques in each class, which is really awesome. I really enjoy the jazz concentration, so I did add that on to my program. So right now, my program track is going to be the Doctor of Acupuncture with the Japanese concentration. I chose not to do herbs. Just right now, from a financial standpoint, it didn't make sense for me, but I think it's a really awesome offering and it does add a lot of depth to your knowledge. So hopefully someday I can come back and learn the herbs as well, or just learn that throughout my studies as a practitioner. But right now I'm looking to complete the Master of Acupuncture and then do the doctoral completion track and continue with the jazz classes.
Yeah, so I am on the herbal formula track, and in addition to the Japanese track. So it can be done. Call me in a year and see if I still feel that way, but it can be done. So I think that the best, and Sam's heard me say this a bunch of times, so I'm sure she's sick of hearing me say this, but the best way I would describe it is that the herbal concentration gives you a really good understanding of theory. So the theory of Chinese medicine and like the way things fit together in that way. And then the Japanese track gives you a lot of tools for your practice, because you may encounter patients that are frail, children, people who have a really bad fear of needles. I don't know why you head to an acupuncturist if you just really hate needles, but there people find relief from things like what are they called, Sam? Tensions?
Patients.
Tations, that's it. Tations, which is so like a non-invasive technique to stimulate the acupuncture points. So it's really about what kind of practitioner you're looking to be. If you really just love, the different, theories of disharmonies in, TCM and how they fit together, herbs is awesome for that because it really gives you a much deeper understanding of that. And if you're really more hands-on and kinesthetic and you just want to get your hands going on some treatments, jazz is a really great additional program where you're learning a totally different style of practicing hands-on.
Dean Mosman, I get the question a lot, and I think you are the perfect person since you are the master of the curriculum map. All I need to practice is a master's degree. Why would I take on the doctorate?
Sure. I want to be thoughtful about my answer. So again, yes, the master's degree is the entry into the profession. And this profession's been around since the 80s in an organized way in the United States. And in that time, the profession went from the entry into it being a certificate to a diploma to a degree, being the master's degree. The profession is making its way to the doctorate. And we already have doctoral standards from our accreditor. It won't be long until the entry into the profession is a doctorate. And that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years. But the profession is heading that way. So get ahead, number one, get ahead of the curve, right? Have your doctorate. For better or for worse, having those initials at the end of your name carries weight. I mean, let's be honest, it carries weight. But I will say there are more practical reasons. I am hearing other states starting to consider that getting a license in that state would require a doctorate. There are research opportunities that are only available to students who have a doctorate. There potentially could be inclusion criteria to work in a medical setting that could require a doctorate. Like, in other words, if you have a doctorate, you might get hired in a hospital for somebody but with a master's degree. So knowing all of these things, knowing that the doctoral standards have been written for several years, and knowing that the profession is going towards the doctorate, if you're going to school, let's say you're coming here for the 4-year Master of Acupuncture in Chinese Herbal Medicine, by adding another 17 credits during that 4 years, you can leave with a doctorate. Yes, it's going to make, your last year a little bit harder, but you'll have the doctorate. And in my experience, a lot of students say, oh, I'll come back and do blank. And then you step out the door and you're working and it's just harder. So if you can do it while you're here, do it. That would be my recommendation. Do you need it? No. Will you? I strongly believe that you will, and it will be a benefit for you. I think it is already a benefit for you to be able to put after your name DAC versus someone that has LAC, right? Doctor of Acupuncture versus licensed acupuncturist. So that would be my take on it.
Perfect. I actually want to take a minute. It's not on this slide, but Sam and Emma, I do get a question, and actually was meeting with someone this morning and was chatting about this. Can you talk about, you guys are taking on concentrations and we're taking on essentially double majors. Can you talk about what your lives are like and kind of your balance between school and kind of, managing your schedule and other things? For some, I'm looking at some of these names in here, and I know that this could be a good question and some good info for some of them that are on here, the info session. Emma, do you want to start?
Sure, I can start.
I'll just pick one of you. I know it's hard
Yeah.
to start.
Yeah, we don't want to talk over each other. I know, I know, Sam. Yeah, it's, I think the biggest thing for me was I had a small gap of working a few years before going back for my master's. And it was really learning to learn again. And I think that's the big thing. That's really the big hurdle initially of this program, because it, Dean Mosman mentioned it earlier. It's a rigorous program. It is. It's extremely rewarding. It's very satisfying. I mean, I love it. So I wouldn't continue to do this kind of rigor if I didn't feel that way. But I think it's just really important that you prioritize your self-care and your time out of the building. We have Fridays off, which is fantastic. I think that's really good for, people who have families or, need to maintain some kind of part-time job in the midst of all of this craziness. And, like I usually don't look at anything acupuncture related for like at least a day in the week, because I love it and I don't want to stop loving it. So I give my brain a little break. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the best advice I can give is, prioritize your life outside of it, but, make sure you're also organized and setting yourself up for success within it.
Yeah, I would echo that. It is a very intense program, and it's funny, sometimes we'll have the full Zoom days and I will be exhausted, like ready for bed at 8:30. And I'm like, how could I be this tired? All I did was sit on Zoom all day. But your brain is doing a workout for like 8 hours of the day with this info. So you have to give yourself that grace of knowing that it is really intense. You're learning a lot. You're probably learning a new way to think in addition to so much information and just being excited about learning. So it's intense, but it's really exciting. Like Emma said, I love it, and I welcome the intensity because of that. I think also our teachers, who are practitioners, sort of set the model of what our lives are going to be, and we kind of see like they got through it, and they're very calm, very measured, grounded people. So you see like what you're going to be in a few years, and you're going to have a level head. And you do through the program too, but it can be a little overwhelming. But I think, like Emma said, like keep up with what makes you happy now. So like I'm a runner, so I'll still go on runs after school days. It probably isn't great for my kidney chi, but that's okay. I'll like make that sacrifice to continue doing something I enjoy. And then keeping up with really good, nutrition, sleeping, just prioritizing that, and kind of committing to this is going to be your next 3/4 years of your life. And you might not be able to do all the vacations and go out every weekend and, see the newest movie or something like that. But this is what you're doing for your career. So just having that frame of mind of like, for 3 or 4 years, I'm just going to commit to learning and doing this and making myself happy. And then I can go back to like a grander societal role, I guess.
Absolutely. Sleep is so important. I was actually just talking with a colleague, and I'm like, you really have to think about it, like sleep and hydration, like the basics actually make such a difference. But sometimes you just have to go back to the basics. So one great thing that, even though I'm not a student in the program, the clinical training and the community clinic that we have here on campus are phenomenal. I love the fact that our students are getting this hands-on experience pretty much the day that they walk through the door. Dean Mosman, do you want to talk a little bit about how first phase and second phase works and some of the opportunities our students have?
Sure. I think about our classes as like, learn, do, and practice. There's didactic classes, you're learning stuff. There's hands-on classes where you're, working on one another a lot, where you're doing things, performing skills. And then there's the clinic where you put into practice what you did in those learning classes, what you did in those doing classes, and you're putting it together in a meaningful way. The whole point of our program is to turn out clinicians. And so I know this may sound obvious, but this is not how every program is. If you're turning out clinicians, then you should be doing clinical things every semester you're in the program. And so we believe that your clinical training starts on day one. I mean, I talk in orientation about you're not an acupuncturist when you graduate. You're an acupuncturist today. And you start to behave like an acupuncturist today, because then when you get out, there's nothing for you to learn. There's no switch that needs to be flipped. You're an acupuncturist. So clinical training is really divided into two phases. It's divided into a watching phase and a doing phase. And our watching phase is called clinical assistantship. And that's where you observe practitioners in a variety of different environments. Sometimes you'll observe here in our treatment center in the Worcester community. Sometimes you'll be observing, I like to say, out in the wild. We will set you up with a placement in a practitioner's office. A lot of times students will have an area that they think they want to specialize in, so they could request, I want to be in a veterans clinic, or I want to be in a reproductive health clinic, or I want to, work in a clinic that works with underserved communities. And for the most part, we can accommodate that because we have over 100 clinical observation sites for you to go to. Why do we have so many sites? We've been here for 50 years. We have developed great relationships with our alumni and practitioners around, not only in the New England area, but all over the East Coast. We have people going to New York, to New Jersey, to Vermont, to Rhode Island, everywhere to do some of these clinical assistantship sites. And if you're one of those commuter students that we talked about before, you can do some of your observation local to where you live, because chances are we have an alumni there. So that's the first part of the training. You're watching and maybe helping with some of those adjunctive techniques that I talked about earlier, but you're watching under the close eye of a clinical supervisor. The second part of clinical training is called clinical internship. That's where you're doing, and the licensed acupuncturists are watching you and giving you feedback so that you can improve your skills. This starts in your 5th semester, which is a bump up from when Emma and Samantha came into the program. It started in their 6th. It will start in their 6th semester. We bumped it up to the 5th semester to give an extra semester of clinical internship training. And this is, again, you can do clinical internship training here at our community treatment center, or you can do clinical internship training at one of our many clinical affiliate sites. And I couldn't be prouder or more excited about the placements that we have for you to go to. Massachusetts is one of the most forward-thinking healthcare states. Our hospital systems are well known around the United States, and many of them have progressive departments like integrative medicine and acupuncture services. So as you can see here, we have several rotations in Boston Medical Center, at UMass Memorial. I mean, we have VA placements, several VA placements. Mass General, we have placements. We have, what is the Shattuck? We do have a placement in the Shattuck. Cambridge Health Alliance, we have a placement. You're going to be able to work in hospitals, working with, we talked about interprofessional collaboration, in departments where your patients are being seen by healthcare workers in other fields, pediatrics, oncology, family medicine, general medicine, pain management. I would say our clinical placements are second to none in the United States. So to be able to kind of do your clinical training in those kinds of environments is just, it's a fantastic opportunity.
And I do know, I believe we're opening a second pain management clinic in the UMass system as
Yeah.
well. So, I mean, anytime I turn around, I just found that out, you know, like the other day, and I'm like, oh, another thing, like, oh, we're doing another thing.
Yep, a new VA
So
placement.
expansion is big as well.
Pediatric pain management clinic coming on board soon. There's a lot of exciting things happening.
Amazing. So kind of with your clinical training, if we're going to talk about herbs, not only do we have all of our community clinic, we have a full working herbal dispensary. So Dean Mosman, I'll have you talk a little bit about that. And I happen to know Emma and Sam, are you guys in Intro to Herbs right now? So I'll have you guys talk about the class that you're in. Every student takes Intro to Herbs. So you guys can, Emma, I know that you're taking the herb track, so maybe if you want to chat a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so again, when the space was built for NISA, the herbal dispensary space that was built for us is just also, it's a beautiful large space. We'll be putting another herb dispensary at our on our Boston campus in the fall, so there'll be a second herbal dispensary there. It's a state-of-the-art facility. We are, teaching our students how to dispense multiple kinds of herbal preparations, from raw herbs, where you're literally taking raw herbs, boiling them down, straining off that fluid, and drinking the fluid that it's like tea, a concentrated tea almost. And you're using that. That's called a decoction of raw herbs. Then there are herb granules, which you take raw herbs and you grind them down. There are actual physical herb grinders. You grind them down into what's like a powder, and it's mixed together. And then those powders or granules can be taken. Sometimes people will spoon them into some hot water, mix them up almost like a tea. Sometimes people will just take a scoop, wash it down with some warm water. We also dispense patent herbs, which I mentioned earlier. Those are like pre-packaged pills, or similar to like what you would get in a vitamin shop, right? Those pills may contain powders or other formulations of herbs. We prepare topical herbs, right? So think about muscle sprains and strains and things like that. So you learn to prepare topical herbs and how to use those topical herbs. All of our herb students do a rotation through the herbal dispensary. You will spend each student will spend a minimum of 15 hours in that herbal dispensary. Some of our students wind up volunteering and doing a little bit more time in the dispensary. And as Amy said, and both Emma and Sam, I believe, are in the class now. We make two reasons we make all of our students do Introduction to Chinese Herbal Medicine. Number one, we feel it's important to expose students to that, because sometimes you may come in thinking you don't want to do Chinese herbs, but when you're exposed to it, you realize this is something that I really want to learn. And number two, the state of Massachusetts has a 30-hour requirement that all acupuncturists must have a minimum of 30 hours of herbal training. And if you want to prescribe or recommend herbs to your patients, you have to do a full-blown herbal program, either the master's program with Chinese herbs or our herb certificate program, which is like a 41 credit additional program that you would take after you became an acupuncturist, for example. Emma or Sam, I don't know if you have anything more you'd like to add.
No, yeah, I think you covered it really well. The only thing I think that is worth noting for me is there is an extra semester of time for this program. So if you're trying to think about when you're going to start working, when you're going to be able to take your board exams, your graduation date would be September instead of May of your year of graduation. So worth considering if that makes a difference for you. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into herbs.
Sam, for the sake of time, I'm skipping over your herbs experience, but I think we did very well covering that. So why starting at NISA? We've gone over a lot of these different bullet points, but the one thing that I have not asked Emma and Sam yet through this info session is, why are you two here at NISA? Sam, if you want to start us off, you guys, Emma was talking about how she was in spring open house last year, so she was making her decision. And Sam was also at spring open house last year, so they really were exactly in your seats 1 year ago.
Yes, exactly. Spring open house is actually what made me decide to come to NISA, which was really fun to have it this past few weeks ago, again. But yeah, so I started getting acupuncture myself. I started getting treatments for some like musculoskeletal things I had going on. And then from there, sort of learned how much it could also treat. I just really hadn't ever known anyone that had done it or really known much about it until I started getting it done. And then it kind of devolved into what can't acupuncture do rather than what can it do for me. And then I kind of started thinking about, well, if I could do this as a career and give this to other people, that would be amazing. And the practitioner I was seeing was a NISA grad. So she kind of told me about the program and had really great things to say about it. So I looked at a few other programs around the country as well. But it really was that open spring house day that made me feel like I can see myself coming here. And it just felt like such a vibrant community. It felt like it was alive and like progressing towards something. So that's kind of how I decided to come to NISA, and it's absolutely been the right choice. I've felt every day since, so I'm very happy.
Emma, do you wanna jump in as well?
Oh,
or
sure.
add maybe to
I
what
actually,
Sam said?
I have to hop off right after. I'm so sorry. I have an appointment I'm going to be late for, but
Oh,
yeah. So I was really in a career that was very devoid of meaning for myself. And I was sort of lost and floating for a while. I had looked at a couple of different alternative medicine programs, and I met a really wonderful acupuncturist who had been to NISA and graduated in 2013 and was just so generous with her time and her, she let me come and sit and watch her all day. And I had no experience, and I asked a lot of really silly questions, and she was so sweet. And so I looked at NISA and I was sold. I think it's a really wonderful place to be. And, there's so much here with, there's so much to bolster the program with every other program that MCPHS has. You just leave as a really well-rounded practitioner, regardless of the acupuncturist label. So that was why I chose NISA.
And yes, please, I don't want you to be late. I know we're running a little bit over. So thank you, Emma. Feel free to jump off. I'm gonna go through what we have left is basically the admission process. We talked a lot about being prepared. We didn't talk so much about wagers here in acupuncture. That also can differ a lot depending on if you're going out into starting your own practice when you're graduating, whether you're going straight into a clinical setting. But the field itself is on the rise. We do not have enough acupuncturists to serve our patients now. When acupuncture is approved through Medicaid, and we're definitely not going to have enough. It's going to be a flood of patients, and we really, really need a lot more practitioners. So getting involved now as that kind of is coming down the pipeline, keep our fingers crossed, will really set you up for a great time and to be able to grow your book of business as well. But we have students here, there, and everywhere. It's not just students graduating and hanging a shingle, even though a lot of students are still doing that. We're seeing students in hospitals and more, high tech, hospital settings and different clinical settings. And so it's amazing what kind of doors can be opened for you while taking this program. So in terms of the application process, we try to make it as easy as possible. It is a free application right on our website. You will have directions on how to send us your college transcripts. There is a personal statement, your journey to acupuncture and why you're seeking us out. One thing that I will want to mention, and this is pretty important, if you are applying to our programs without the completion of a bachelor's degree, you'll want to make sure that you meet our credit requirements. So if we are just interested in doing a master's level of acupuncture, whether that's just a master of acupuncture or the master of acupuncture in Chinese herbal medicine, you need to have at least 60 completed undergraduate credits. Now, we were also talking a lot about different states or having different licensing regulations. So if we're going through the doctorate, or you think you want to come back ever and do the doctorate, you'll need to have at least 90 undergraduate credits. So if you're coming back for the doctorate and you want to use master's credits towards that, that won't work. It has to be those undergrad credits. So I do recommend completing the 90 credits. Then that way you would never have to worry about that. But a completed undergrad degree is not something you have to have. We just have to see these credit requirements met. And if you have done any kind of international coursework, we do have to have international transcripts evaluated through a transcript evaluation vendor. Most popular ones are WES and ECE, very easy to Google, or a simple email to me. I'm happy to walk through that process and what that looks like. In terms of admissions review, when you first send in your application, it is going to come to me first. I'm going to make sure that we have all the components that we require, going to make sure that there's no red flags in your application or anything that I may need to request additional information for. If everything checks out and you are an eligible candidate, you are invited for an interview. We're offering them both on campus and online through Zoom. It is a one-on-one interview with a faculty member, and it's really asking about you. So all this faculty member knows about you is what has been in your application. So I tell students, as long as you know who you are, it should be a pleasurable experience. A lot of times it's more of a casual conversation rather than, you sitting in front of someone with a clipboard and a big red pen and they're asking you a bunch of questions, or it's a panel of judges that are asking you a bunch of questions. This is typically about 30 to 45 minutes. So it's really non-pressure, as I like to say, compared to some other interviews that you may have been in. I do have some frequently asked questions here. I'm also happy to take questions. I haven't seen any come through the Q&A box, but this would be a great time to put some in if there's anything that maybe we haven't gone over that you were hoping that we would answer or go over. When we were talking about that first year and some of those hybrid courses, so some of those Zoom sessions that you'd be taking usually on Mondays and Tuesdays, those are our some of the flexibility in the program. We also have, in terms of flexible enrollment, we do have an extended version of our master's program. So traditionally, a master's of acupuncture is a 3-year program. We do have an option that it could be a 4-year program. I'm happy to answer questions about that if anyone is seeking that out. So there are options of hybrid during your first year. You do have some Zoom lectures there. We are fall start only. So right now, all of our master's programs only start in the fall. We don't accept students in the spring or summer at this time. You don't have to have any kind of background to come into this program. So, I have a lot of students, well, I was, an English lit major, and that's okay. You can come into the program. We're looking at those credit requirements. All the science that you need to know is built into the curriculum. So everyone is going to learn it together anyway. So sometimes that's a big question I get of, oh my God, I've never sat in a biology course. What am I going to do? And it's okay, because there'll also be someone else there that has also not sat in one of those courses. We have lots of international students, so absolutely international students are eligible to apply. We do take some transfer credit. I'm happy again to walk through that process and set up a meeting with students and kind of how that works. And we do process federal financial aid. So these are full-time on-campus programs, so they qualify for all of the different graduate aid options. And we do have scholarships. So we are moving to a per credit price. So the $8,000 scholarship that we had from when Sam was coming in is essentially the same thing. It just shows on your bill differently. It's going to show as a deduction of per credit. So depending on when you inquired about the program, that is something that's changed over the past couple months. But it's really only going to change when you're looking at your bill. We didn't have to, give away less scholarship in that instance. We just had to change the way that it was being dispersed. We've talked a lot about different states having different licensing requirements. That is something I highly recommend looking up, maybe even before you start a program. California has some pretty strict requirements in terms of certain undergrad courses you need to have, and in terms of the training you got during your master's program. This is all of my contact information. I'll leave it up here for a minute or two. We have campus tours. We have days that you can come and visit classes. We have lots of video footage online. You can take a virtual tour online as well. So lots of different ways to get familiar with the campus. If you have an opportunity to visit, I highly recommend it. I usually tell people, I can stand and I can talk about all the wonderful things that we have to offer, but I can actually really stand behind it and show it to you if you come to visit. So I'm not trying to, extend the reality by any means. We have some amazing facilities here for our students. So I'm going to leave this up for just a minute or two. I don't see any questions coming through. You're also feel free, call me, reach out to me. Email is probably the quickest, because even if I'm in a meeting, sometimes I can respond to people pretty quickly. Anything you need, I'm happy to coordinate. If you had more questions for Dean Bozeman, or maybe you have questions for Sam or Emma, they're always happy to chat offline with students. But if there are no open questions, I will go ahead and give some time back, because we are running a little bit over, and I'm sorry about that. I hope everyone enjoyed this. You were able to get some good information. We are always available for questions. Applications are still open, and there's still plenty of time. So there's even still time to come visit campus before even applying. So please reach out to me. I'm happy to coordinate that. Do we have any last words for my panel here?
No, thanks so much for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.